So, welcome back. I'm your host, Soli. With me is partner in crime, Oreo, and he decided we got to talk about the dating scene.
Damn, Skippy.
Interviewed me once, and she's interviewed plenty of other mind blowing guests. It is Reena Watts from the Better Call Daddy podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcoming is also Max Sycamore from the Bitches with Beard, who I've also been honored to be on roundtables with.
It's lovely to have a chat with everyone tonight about dating. I'm sorry it's such a shit show but
hopefully we won't make it a shit show.
I hope I can provide some guidance in the dating scene.
You did, dude. And it's awesome that you're an hour away. I did not know that. It's bullshit.
Do you think that people are ever ready to get married?
This is what I like about these questions. This is anyone who says this is easy is like, well, this wouldn't be a question if this was easy, you know?
Word up.
I would say generally no, and I'll say why. And I like how you're opening up this whole discussion platform. And I am not here to be a cynic or anything, or just downbeat or be negative. It's just so, like, take for instance, like I have a cousin recently got married. She's a nurse, totally qualified, great science background.
No.
I think she was ready for marriage because not only did we get to see who her, soon to be partner was, but one of them was kind of let's just say he was a lovable giant teddy bear. And she was just more, just could be funny one minute and serious the next, and it was just a matter of just reading their body language, reading just how they absorb all this information and how organized they are with day-to-day life, everything from cooking to let's get ready for a party, let's get ready for work. So I think they were at that age again, in their 30s. Yes, I think they're ready. Now, generally, it does seem like there are many, they want to get married as soon as, they hit puberty. And it seems like, to answer your question, it does kind of get to that point where it's just their mind is racing, but they're never asking the magic question. Am I ready? Can I do this? Am I doing this just to show off?
Yeah.
Is our love actually going to last? Am I going to be faithful? Are we marrying just because we're obsessed with each other, but not necessarily in love? So,
and
I think
lusters of love.
I think this actually does mirror a lot of dating. I have been on a few unofficial dates. I've been at networking events. I even took some colleagues who were in the same area to a stand-up concert once upon a time. So unofficial dates, but it was just one of those, just like, I think it really does come down to a lot of the questions we're going to get into. How serious is it? And it doesn't seem like it's often is.
Like, yeah, I love that. And alongside, like, kind of having your shit together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Should we bring kids into this situation? And like, is that required?
I'd wait 6 months to a year for that.
And Oreo, you've been in a few, you've had a fiance once upon a time, and yeah, no, that's a very good point on the kids, Reena, because it seems like those are the ones who ultimately get hurt.
Yep.
And I kind of had enough experience because I had many friends who were divorced, and they would talk smack about one of the two parents. It's like, oh, mom, she's so or my dad, I always
so da.
Right. Anytime it's his day to watch me, I just go to my friend's house, and just come home for dinner. So it does seem like to have all that hostility built up, I think also accounts for a lot of the same kind of just distrust, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta be ready. You gotta be ready for it. I'm gonna be upfront. I'll be married 8 years, and
nice.
I went through dating hell, and my husband went through dating hell, and I watched my friends go through dating hell. And a joke that me and my husband have is that I'm, as you might tell from my accent, I'm not from America. My husband is from America.
I don't judge.
Really?
Yeah, I know. It's a subtle British accent. But we always joke we had to import because just we couldn't deal with the dating scene out in country, and not that we actually met purely by accident. I was on vacation over in Washington DC.
Now that was definitely meant to be.
Yeah.
that travel was the best travel you ever had.
DC's an hour away from me.
Yeah, and he's
Yes,
just
you're
like,
Maryland.
I'm a very, I mean, I've got a lot more outspoken since I became a podcaster, because you need to be outspoken. But
Yeah.
you know,
What we
like
do.
we're very much the perfect fit for like our different cultures. But oh my god, dating in England was horrendous. Oh god,
Because it's the same atmosphere versus somewhere else. Even though you have multiple accents and shit in different cultures, it's still the same dating pool with nothing new to offer.
And we're not very outwardly emotional, so it's basically just two guys that's looking at each other going meh, you know, and you're like, no.
It's almost like a job interview. It's like, how can I do better at the next one when you're giving me these white lies?
It is. It was just
like
dating,
you're not telling me how I could do better.
I always joke that every time me and the Hubs have an argument, we get one of our single friends to come over and describe their last dating experience, and all of a sudden we're like, "Oh wow, this seems a lot better," you know.
For now.
But
So,
no, dating. Couldn't imagine it. Couldn't imagine it now.
Do you have any like horror stories of like bad dates?
I got one too.
My one, I actually was very lucky that I didn't go. I didn't go through a horrendous time. I had a guy that strung me on for about 6 months, and it was just like he didn't want to. There'd be no messaging, and then all of a sudden on like a Sunday, he'd be like, "Hey, do you want to go get a drink?" And it's because he was bored, you know, and he wanted someone to go into the club with.
I hate that.
And then he'd get in the club and all that.
And you've heard all the appropriate responses, so you're just like, he just wants someone to be here. I'm basically almost feel like an escort. You know, I'm not. You don't want this person actually here. You just want to look important. You know, that's why I never went to prom growing up. I would get.
You were the guy on the arm,
we'll get to all our high school stories because it does play a part in our adult lives. But I would see so many people, they just wanted someone to go with. I'm like, but you don't even dance, or you guys can't even stand each other in class. So what?
I think that was the worst thing was, and also I had a lot of friends who knew that I was a late bloomer, and then, you know, I'd been out for a while, but then I got into dating a bit when in my mid to late 20s, and I had a friend who was like, "Oh yeah, no, this is just normal like dating code stuff," and I was like, "No, it's not. This is what Sex in the City." I mean, I love Sex in the City.
Me too.
Yeah, but there was like, what's the code? What's the code? You can't contact for 3 days. I'm like, no, that's so toxic now. You can't live by that. And I had and this guy would not buzz me for like a couple of days. Yeah.
So how do you handle the sidewalk rule?
What was the sidewalk rule?
Yeah, I'm like, what's the sidewalk rule?
You don't know the sidewalk rule? Oh my god.
Oreo, you are like out Sex and the City all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned about the sidewalk rule a few weeks ago. I didn't even know what it was. I'm like, okay, and then my friend explained it.
It's where the guy should walk on the outside if he's walking with a woman. Is that the?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was called that.
Yeah. We just thought he was being dumb.
No. I have my moments, but
is that like the one where you meant to, the man is meant to sleep closest to the door in the bedroom?
I never heard of that.
Me either.
That's interesting.
No, I haven't heard that. I'd be a liar if I said I had.
The man is meant to sleep next to the door, but
the closest to the door for like protection.
Yeah, that's that one.
Yeah.
But then, like me and my husband, obviously being shock horror to everyone who can hear my voice, 2 men. He sleeps on the left,
and this is why I love. Right. This is 2024.
Yeah,
we don't have any of this phobia.
So it depends on like the room, but he has to sleep on the left and I have to sleep on the right because God, if he slept on the right, he'd snore like a son of a bitch. And it's But no, there's all these stupid stuff, and I mean, I dated this guy for 6 months, and he was so toxic purely because I had friends going, "Well, this is the dating rule, and that's the dating rule." I'm like, no, he just was being a non-committal piece of exploitative,
and they're going off of what
naked.
they've heard in pop
Yeah.
culture, and you're like, that doesn't. No, that's. I'm talking real life. Real life.
So when I talk to my mates now, my bestie, my co-host on Bitches Ear Beards, and he's now re-entered the dating scene, he'll come to me and he'll come to the hubs and he'll go, "What do you think of this?" And we will be blunt as anything with him. We are just like, we're not too dismissive, and we do like to encourage, but at the same time, if he comes back with, "Well, this is so and so," I'm like, "Yeah, that's not good." Like,
it's true. It's about social cues.
It's not that hard to say to someone, "Hey, do you want to go for a happy hour?"
Do you think it also
happy hour is still important?
Yeah. Do you think it also, for either our two main guests here, do you think it also goes back to just kind of reading the room?
Oh, you've got to be able to read a room.
Right. But I just rule number one, like if this person who let's say you're at a party, you're talking to one of the strangers, if he or she is walking in the opposite direction, that's kind of your cue that it's nothing personal. They don't want to talk to you. You know, they're shy.
Yeah.
And my sister would sometimes do that to some friends. I'm like, okay, he or she has already avoided eye contact with you multiple times. They've already said not into music or movies, and you went ahead and just blabbed about them, superheroes and comic books. Danger, Will Robinson, bad. Don't cease the conversation. And then
go
finally,
to your room.
Yeah, no, I'm not a boss. But it's just so funny. Then finally, the person is being over polite and saying, "I got to get a drink," which is their cue for, "I want to leave this party."
Yeah.
And it's interesting. What have you noticed a lot, Reena, at the many social gatherings you've been at?
Well, I recently put on like a cocktail party. It was a 2-hour meetup, and I've been going to a lot of meetups in town because we just moved to Houston, and
you hustle, man.
I've met like cool people at all these other meetups. I was like, hey, I could just like gather a few from each one I've gone to and then put on my own. So I did that. And what was interesting is people like knew each other. A lot of people knew each other from different events around town. So the conversation was like already starting. And some of the other events that I've gone to, like I've seen them do like an icebreaker. So I kind of like let people mingle. And then I like worked my way around the room and was kind of like, okay, in 5 minutes, we're going to go around and we're going to say like our favorite breakfast. And do you have a podcast, want a podcast, or do you want a guest on a podcast?
But I kind of real life topics now.
Yeah. So I kind of like thanked them for coming, but then like let them intermingle because I didn't want to break up the magic that was happening. And then like gave everybody a heads up that I want everybody to know each other and we can all be friends.
Right. You will know everyone's name regardless of where we leave each other a business card, you know? Like
that's an amazing host. Like,
I'm glad you did that. That's cool.
It was really cool.
So cool to do. I said I'm really fortunate. My husband's a very outgoing upstate New Yorker. And trust me, as a British guy, even my parents are like, does he ever stop? But he's the guy that goes into a party and he'll go to the drinks table and he'll see someone and go, "Hey friend, what's your name?" And he makes everyone feel welcome. I'm very lucky to have someone like him. But I do think that we've lost, like, even so I know this is about dating, but I'm going through a period now where I'm trying to friend date people.
Mm-hmm.
I like that term.
Friend date. Nice.
Yeah, because my husband's realized that I don't
kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah, he's like basically saying you need to have friends, but it is hard to go into a party or any social situation and just walk up to people.
It is because it's intimidating as fuck. It's like, oh god, are they going to shun me, or are they going to yell at me, or are they going to be like, oh hey, you're cool, and they're like, oh.
But I don't get why it's so hard. And I do get why it's hard because I am more shy than I let.
You're a homebody.
It's tough to have the crown placed on your head.
Yeah, But it's so weird because like the one thing also he says to me is like, if I have a lot of people kind of come at me, he's always like, just be fortunate people want to talk to you, and that
True.
that. So I always feel that if I go up to somebody at a party and I'm like, "Hi, my name's Max. How are you?" and they kind of like, you're like, "Well, are you? What? Why are you here? If someone." I'm not trying to have sex with you. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just wanting to say hi.
I want to know who you are.
Yeah, and I'm like,
Exactly.
that's so
Not
harsh.
an interrogation.
Are people that closed off now? They won't allow that at least basic communication.
People are still stuck in COVID mode, and it's really sad.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
No, that's a good point.
Like everything was good, and then COVID hit, and then everybody just stayed in COVID mode. And
just practice at the grocery, like literally start talking to all the cashiers. Like that's
that
really
recently. Oh my god!
I was at the grocery yesterday.
I will be devastated if some of my favorite grocers leave.
I've made friends because there's a coffee shop like in the grocery. That guy is so proud of like his new concoctions of different things that he's tried, and I just wind him up. Nice. I'm like, I play into it, but I enjoy it because he's so excited about his samples of the day. I try every sample, whether I would ever buy it or not. And then I usually go back to like the drink I like.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because you're pleasing him and building him up and giving him good self-confidence. And then you go back to what you usually do, but then he knows that you respect his craft enough.
Those are both good points. Because most of the time when you're in customer service, you kind of have your invisible shield up because you're afraid of the inevitable person who's angry and going to explode on you, and it's nothing personal, but they need someone to say, hey, why is my, just anything. Like I have friends who are in IT. They're always ready for the whole, you don't know what you're doing, insult.
Sir, I've worked here for 10 years.
Right. So it's awesome that when you're coming up to these people, you're making their day and they may not even realize it because they're just,
He's like, I don't even drink coffee, but I get the responses from people that like it. I'm like, that's freaking hysterical.
It's actually not uncommon. There's a lot of people who are like, okay, so my grandmother, bless her soul, she was a teacher, and much like her mother before her, who was also a wonderful person who I had the honor of also knowing, they both were made wonderful quiche.
Ooh.
That's a great brunch. That's such a
wonderful
go-to good brunch.
We need to do a food podcast sometime.
I make quiche. I come from quiche.
Yeah, quiche.
My mom made quiche. My grandma made quiche too.
It's such a good brunch because you put it in, you serve
protein
it,
and everything. Yeah.
Hey, this is something that should be on like must-have lists, like need to know or like.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you know basic culinary arts, you can win a lot of people over easily. But some people don't even want to try for that or anything because it's too much. Yeah. Like it's not that hard to make a small little culinary party. I look at all these cookbooks I've covered from different fandoms, and some of them have party ideas that are put together automatically. I'm like, dude, you can do a themed party.
You can be a party planner gig, yeah. Anyway, so this is gonna blow your mind. So, neither of the grandparent ate quiche. Didn't like it, but you would never know that because of how buttered up and well cooked, organized with the crust it was. But yes, they did have the party planner attitude, so I think that's what ultimately did them in. That's why, and that's just commitment. I think it goes beyond just like a celebrity. I want to make you laugh. I think it goes into, I want to put smiles on your face. I want to be able to live with myself knowing I've done something good. It's just this very rare selflessness. And I know you've been fortunate, Reena, to know people in the industry who want to get everyone coffee before they even ask, can I get a cup of coffee and all this other stuff.
That's how I got promoted at Nanny 911.
Isn't it interesting?
I was a post-production supervisor, but I was memorizing coffee orders. I'm like, how do I keep this role? How do I go from
exactly it.
Night shift to day shift is make the head editor that's in charge of all the other editors love me. I'm like, we need to get you your own coffee machine. I need to know how you like your coffee with your time card.
Reena, that's exactly it. Because
with overtime attached. Yeah.
I work in video production now.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Nice.
I work. So I do video. I do media
Congrats.
production for an organization. Thank you. But I don't. I mean, I wish I could be more creative with it. But I love my job. But when I was in England, I was training up. I worked for a youth charity, and I used to train young people in media production.
Oh,
And the
cool.
one thing they would say to me is, "What can I do best when I get on a film set?" And I said, "Learn how the director likes his cup of tea."
100%.
And I said, when he's looking stressed, when the director's looking stressed, and you walk up with the tea, how they, because obviously British, the rumors are true.
He's already trying to get the various personas to behave and make the studio happy, be on budget.
And the rumors are true. The British, we need our tea. And I said, if you can learn to make that, and you go up to the director and go, I made you a cup of tea.
How can you have any pudding if you don't drink your tea?
I can attest to that. My girl needs her tea too.
Yeah, but just do it. Just learn how to make, like, if you're gonna get into anything, learn how to make that drink. But it's even down to the point when I first was like dating my husband. Like, I was out here, we were here for Halloween. I had a very heavy night, and bless his heart, he tried to make me a cup of tea using the coffee maker, and it was the worst cup of tea he's ever made in his life. But he was so full of love that I was like, I think I can marry you. Right. This, you know, when you said earlier, when do you know if you're ready to be married? I'm like, when your husband's trying to boil tea in a coffee maker and it's so disgusting, but it's full of love, and you're like going, ugh.
Thanks, but that's not how this works.
I have a good embarrassing story. I mean, I've made my husband like really bad, like instant chies too, like when he came to my apartment in the beginning. But like,
Reena, you embarrassed someone? What?
Oh my God. When I was single, I truthfully like ordered a lot of prepared food. Like, I definitely was just going to Trader Joe's and picking up like an egg salad and like a wrap. You know what I mean? And so when I got married, I did not know how to cook. I am not going to lie. I literally bought out so much. And so I went to this like fruit stand and vegetable market, like, you know, an outdoor market. And I picked up all these vegetables and, you know, fresh fish, or I don't know. And I just threw it all in together and all the spices. And I just came out with a huge smile on my face, and I knew nothing. And he was just, it was a guessing game. He was like, chicken? I'm like, no. It's like fish.
I'm like, use that on me.
Am I going to be allergic to this?
But he ate it. I was like, okay, this guy's a keeper. I'm like, he's got good home training. You know what I mean? I never made it again because I could tell it wasn't good. But
have you? I have to ask. Have you learned to cook since then, or have you not? Have you just like, this is not my part of this lifestyle?
That's a great question. I don't get too adventurous, but like, my aunt, when we lived in Kentucky for a couple of years, she's very into cooking. So she taught me how to make some like key items. Nice. I actually can make a really good meatloaf. I learned quiche. Nice. What else? I can bake bread. I make my, I've learned how to do that really well.
Damn, that's marriage material right there. Shit.
But like, I buy dessert unless it's pie. Like, I make a really good pumpkin pie from scratch.
That's good. You should, Irina, you're welcome over. Everyone here is welcome over.
Anyone else I know would go, I'm jealous. I'm not a jealous guy. That I'm impressed. That's
salmon. I've gotten better at that. I did learn like little key tricks, like you always need to soak salmon in lemon, otherwise it tastes super fishy. And then with chicken, you know, you got to pull the skin back, you got to wash it really good. You put the spice under the skin, the oil under the skin. Then there's like little tricks. So I've gotten better. I wouldn't say I'm a pro.
Reena, can I ask, if we're talking about dating, how long did you date your husband for before you married him?
Yeah, that's a great question.
What was your dating life like before?
Okay, so this is a little crazy. I was actually engaged prior to my husband, and
plot twist.
Oh my God, scandal.
All right.
Big scandal. And we met on the Jerry Springer show.
What? Wait, no. Wait, you what?
Out of all the stuff I've heard you talk about Wilco's and all these other people. I had no idea.
Yeah. Wow. I did get promoted before I got my office, but you know.
Well, you weren't on it though.
I didn't realize he was actually on Springer. I thought he was just a producer. Wow.
Yeah, we were both producers on the show.
Oh no! So I thought that I kind of had a vision of you like throwing a chair at him and going, you're the father. Oh, I love you. I've met you.
That would have been awesome. That would have been, apropos. But yeah, so I broke up with him and then took like a super long break. Like quit smoking, got into yoga, took a job at 911, like worked third shift, and then got on J-Date.
Whoa.
Yes. And so he was like a grad student at Berkeley. We came from like, I don't know. I mean, we had stuff in common, but truthfully, I just thought he was like another Jew from the South and I liked his hat. So he was wearing like a fedora. I thought it was a cowboy hat. I was like, all right. So he came down from the Bay Area, which is like a 6-hour drive, and we met on Venice Beach.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah. It was nuts. And then my cousin, who was like super protective of me, like blocked my car in on Venice Beach after our like 12-hour date. He was like, you're crashing here, and he's out. Yeah. And so we ended up getting engaged like 4 months later. And then we got married 4 months after that. We never lived in the same city. And I feel like we didn't even really know each other.
So me and we never had the same experience then.
Do you think it's just the environment was distracting from what you guys were actually seeing in each other?
I think that he was 32 and I was 26, and we had both like stood on our own 2 feet and kind of knew what we wanted. He also had been engaged before. And I think all of that, like yoga and not dating and taking 1.5 years off from sex is like super, it makes you very clear in what you want.
I got everybody beat on that shit.
It's true. I mean, no, that's so cool that there was this coincidence. It's like you both.
Yeah, me and my husband had never lived in the same country. That when we got married, like we'd met. I was on vacation. We really liked each other. We stayed in contact, and we did 2 months off and 1 week on, and 2 months off and 1 week off, and 6 months in, he surprised me and came over and proposed in front of a shit ton of people.
Now you know they're serious.
Now, how do you feel about public proposals?
I got a public proposal too.
Oh,
how did you feel about that?
Nuts. What was your one like, Reena? You go.
It was in front of my grandparents, my best friends from growing up. It was like Rosh Hashanah lunch at my grandmother's house. And it was funny because my cousin like brought home her boyfriend and they had been together for like years. And so my husband like went up to that guy. He was like, are you going to do it? And he was like, no. And he's like, all right. So he stood up and it was like.
That answers that.
So were you pre-engaged or were you just not ready? You didn't know that was coming?
I didn't 100% know it was coming, although we had looked at rings. So
So you were kind of pre-semi-engaged.
Kind of, we were talking about it, but I didn't know it was coming.
Like, it's now or never. I'm not waiting.
But that was cool.
So my one was like we'd met in the October and he came over for the Christmas in England. Like, and my parents were completely shocked because they knew I'd been out for a while, but they'd never met a boyfriend because I'd never really had one. And like they were like met this guy and he was like, they were kind of like really liked him. And then we'd done a couple of bumps on and off. And then I knew something was coming because we discussed it because we wanted to live together. Marriage was the only way we needed to go forward with it. So come the June, and it was Pride Month in England. I was Pride Month over here as well. And I was volunteering for a LGBT switchboard hotline, and he'd been involved in, like, the husband had been involved in, like, the people I was working with. And so just before, the day before Pride, they were going to do a big gala because they were like, well, it's our 40th anniversary. We're going to rebrand, blah, 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 blah. So the husband he couldn't come over for it. And he was like, well, I'm going to go to Toronto actually, because that's where there's a Pride that weekend. I feel bad. I'm missing your thing, blah, and all that. So I go to this event and it's at the Hilton on Shaftesbury Avenue. And it's a really nice event. And they're like, hey, I was a bit pissed off because I was trying to buzz my husband, my then boyfriend, and saying, hey, you know, look at me in my suit, and he was ignoring my phone calls. I'm like, I don't know why he's been a dick, all this sort of thing. And
you're tired of waiting for his answer because you know it's not going to be acceptable either way.
Yeah, I was just like I'm trying to be excited, and he's like I can't talk right now, and all this and all that. So we go to this event and they go, hey, you're Max. Hey, do you want to, like, can we give you like this like name tag because we might need you at the front because because we want to get some photos. And do you like consent to your photo being taken for publicity? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I go in, we're having a nice time, go to the front. And it's a huge room. There's like 500 people there.
Oh my
Jesus.
God.
And yeah, and I'm glad you're all guessing that no one's going, what's going to happen next? You know,
Like, no, not 500.
And we're standing there, and then
Why did it have to be an odd number?
Yeah, and they're like going to me,
even technically, but whatever.
But but we're kind of like, because I'm standing there and we're having a drink, and they go, okay, the program's about to start, but before we begin, we've got a special guest coming over from America, and he has a very special announcement to make. And they start playing our song, and I'm like, well, this is very it's a known song, but it's not a known song. I'm like, well, this is mine and Jamie's song. So, and then all of a sudden, my then boyfriend walks out on stage, sings, pulls me up on stage.
Oh.
And then when during the immigration interview, they're like, "What were you thinking?" I'm like, "Where do I put my beer?" Because I had actually a Heineken in my hand, and I was there trying to walk down the stairs like this, like Matrix style, trying to put the beer down on the stairs because I knew that I was going to get proposed to, but without actually having a beer. And he proposed. It was very sweet, and it turns out my parents were standing right behind me, and I was like, it was so American, but I knew there and then. But it was 6 months in, and like I know that if we have kids, I would say to them straight away, never get engaged within 6 months, never ever marry someone, and go to a strange land within 15 months, like. I broke all
strangers
the rules.
in a strange land.
It worked, but I broke all the rules that I'd ever give any kids of mine, and my parents were like, the week before we were having a drink, and my parents were like, what do you think of JB? And they're like, oh my God, you were pre-interviewing me about the engagement. Like,
yeah, I did the same thing with mine. I proposed 6 months in. And everything was right. She felt so right, but we were too young, and it was our first actual relationship.
Can I ask how old you were?
We were both 20. I was 24. She was 23. And we hit it off. Like, we talked on Plenty of Fish, and then she drove an hour to come see me after our conversation that same night. And it clicked at the beginning. And then 6 months in, I was like, I'm proposing. And I did it in a photo shoot at Sears. And everything was just so magic. And I made it magic. And retrospectively, like, I knew we weren't ready. I did it because I thought I was ready. And I was proving a point, and I shouldn't have proved a point. But in the end, I
Make an ass out of me.
Yeah, but it was a beautiful photo shoot, and everything fell together. And then she ended up cheating on me, and then it was just a bad situation because of her mental illnesses and shit. And it really hurt, but take the illnesses away, and she was a good fucking woman. So good. But retrospectively, very naive too. We were both naive. But, I don't regret dating her. She was a lesson for me, for both of us. And I tried to make amends years later, and she didn't want to hear it. And I was like, all right, fine. Just trying.
Can I ask why you said you were making amends?
Because I have done a lot of dumb, ignorant shit in my life. I have said some horrible fucking things to people. And I am doing better in healing myself because I've got PTSD, CPTSD, and autism, and ADHD. And I've been through so much harsh shit that it made me realize that I need to do better by people. And I have apologized to so many people for what I've said or done. The one thing I did recently was apologize to I apologized to a friend of mine that showed up at the gym this past weekend. I hadn't seen her in a couple months, and the last time we talked, she compartmentalized me to texting, and that was because I was aggressive about wanting to have sex with her and shit. And she said we could have a play date, but then she just rejected me altogether. And I was like, oh, fuck you, whatever. And then I saw her, I was like, I got to apologize to you. And she's like, why? I don't even remember what you did. And she's like, should I just say I accept your apology and move on, or do you gotta explain? I was like, I'll explain. And I told her, I was aggressive about wanting sex with you, and I shouldn't have been aggressive, and I'm sorry for that. And she's like, I accept that, and I appreciate that a whole lot. And it's amazing how so many people appreciate that. I did the same thing to another friend of mine, but it wasn't over sex. It was over a mutual friend of ours that died from anaphylactic shock. And yeah, oh my God, that dude was like a second father to me. He was so goddamn good. He loved his son so much. Every time we got done at the bar, he's like, let me tell you about my boy Brad. Every fucking night we were at the bar, before and after. Let me tell you about my boy Brad. He loved that boy with all his heart. And he was dating two different women. He was dating Carol, and then they broke up, and then he was dating Mai. When he was with Mai, he died. And I looked at her, and the first thing out of my mouth back then, this was 2011, I was like, oh God, I wonder how Carol feels. And I was like, oh, you fucking idiot. And then I ran into her.
It took it happening to you for you to put it together. See, that's how harsh you were being.
I know, because the look on her face, it didn't register back then for me. I was like, why is she just giving me a blank look? What about Carol?
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, give it up, Jimmy, you gotta sink this putt to win. On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and foodie debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in, it's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out.
And then I saw her in Walmart years later, actually this past year, or it might have been last year, and I told her, I was like, I got to apologize to you. And she's like, what for? Because she was taken aback by that. And I was like, when Paul died, I told you that, I was worried about how Carol felt, and I didn't think about your feelings at that time because it didn't register. And she's like, oh, well, that's okay, but I appreciate that. And, apologizing and making amends with people feels good because more weight comes off of me.
Those anvils don't weigh down on you.
For real, like I'm not, like my anxiety is pretty much non-existent. I don't have the urge to pick at my scabs as much as I used to. I don't punch my head anymore. I don't get upset. I don't even get fucking angry anymore like I used to. Sometimes I get set off, but not as badly. But looking back at everything bad I've done and everything shitty, it was a life lesson. And losing key people in my life, I lost my best friend in 2013 to an overdose. That broke me. It did. Like me and Crystal were cancer twins, peas in a pod, got along, didn't even need to say words to each other. That's how organic we were. We just meshed so fucking well. And gosh, he was so fucking amazing. And it took me a long time to heal from her. I didn't go to her grave until last year, full decade after her death. And I remember I forced myself to watch her go in the ground because I needed to have that finality. I needed to know, she's dead, she's gone. And at first it clicked and then it didn't click. And for so long, it hurt. And it was, there were nights I was on the floor bawling my eyes out over her because she was gone and I didn't have her anymore. And then it was just, it took so long to heal from that. And I lost relatives along the way, but they didn't hurt as much. But hers was the catalyst point for me that really broke me. And healing from being broken really puts everything in perspective. And then when I went to her grave last year on our birthday, because we never spent a birthday together, I hated that we spent it this way because she's dead, I'm still alive. And I understood why she OD'd. I understand, like I have a great perspective on why people commit suicide. Hers was an accidental overdose, but I understand why people do suicide. And it's rough to understand that because if you are so closed-minded, you don't get it. You'll never fully understand it unless you have someone that you lose that goes by suicide or just dies of an overdose or whatever. And you have to understand from outside perspectives what it is for them in their mind.
Locking yourself in a room and venting doesn't do it.
It doesn't work. I'm so grateful I have YouTube because one, I get a lot of people coming in left and right giving me feedback, but also it's helped me when I do my About Me vids because if I'm having a problem, I do a vid on it and confront the issue versus letting it fester. And confronting all these different issues I've had has helped me so much. And then I had to go through so much introspection, retrospection, and tracing everything back to key sources. And that's fun. You learn so much about yourself as you're older. And the thing that really pisses me off, and it's so stupid, is that I know so much now, and I hate that I can't go back and tell my younger self, hey, this is what we're not supposed to fucking do. And it irks me every day. Like I learn something new and it's like, fuck, I wish I knew that back then. But my favorite
That's why you shouldn't date too long.
Honestly,
that's a good point. Yeah.
My longest relationship, my ex-fiance was 23 months. And then me and Bella were currently deep friends. We were dating for a long time, but I've known her since 2019 and we met on Twitter. And it's wild that we met on Twitter because I never thought I'd find somebody like that. And we hit it off, fast friends, deep relationship, and then the long distance got to her. And it really ruined the relationship. And she's like, you should find, and she's in New Zealand, by the way. So the time difference is a pain in the ass. So I'm up at like 2 and 3 in the morning waiting to talk to her because she's doing school and stuff. And she is such a phenomenal woman, one of the best. And I'm grateful that when I was younger, I said, I hope I find a woman that when we break up, she's a good ex. And Bella is a good fucking ex. Because I never understood that premise. I'm like, why the hell are you friends with your fucking ex? They're an ex for a reason. And I learned, they actually have benefits. And it's not the sex. Ain't the sex. It's how they carry themselves and how they treat you and whether or not they want to stay in your life or not. And stopping at Bella and going back to 2002, when I was in high school. I was a sophomore. Yeah, sophomore.
Man.
Yeah. People were like, "You're so young." I'm like, yeah, I know. It's a lot with like alcohol and smoking and shit. That's been trauma, thanks. 2002, a girl walked past me and shit clicked. And she became my crush. And I saw her walk by me. I'm like, damn, and my heart skipped a beat that day. I still remember that shit. Total cliche 90s romance, right? It's fun. And I said to myself, like, I hope I see her again. And a few days later, ran into her again. And I was in BEST. It was a behavioral program in my high school for everybody that had behavioral problems and shit. I was in there because I got arrested the year previous for indecent exposure in high school. My friend,
wow,
my ex-friend Doug dared me to hump a tree with my dick and balls out, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'll do it." And I did it in front
yeah,
of the
we get a
school.
little blunt here, guys. Just a warning here, but
yeah, for real. But yeah, going back to this girl, Jess Brown, love this woman so much. And she came into the room, and I was sitting at the computer doing my work, and she talked to me. Now, to put it in perspective, I was shy as fuck back then, and I didn't talk to barely anybody. I mean, I talked like surface. There's levels of talking. We all are levels of talking. There's your surface talk, where you're like, "Hey, what's up? Hey, bye, bye." Literally, and then you have your sub levels, your medium levels, your high levels, and shit. And she engaged me in conversation, and she was one of the popular ones in school. And it still blows my mind to this day that she talked to me. And she showed me what was in her purse. She said she was spoiled, and she had her Nextel cell phone. Nextel chirp was the shit back then. Annoying as hell and garbled, but funny. But yeah, and I remember I looked at her so many times while she was working, and she would sniff her hair to think. She'd be tapping her hand. She had on her white shirt, black skirt, shoes, and she was just so beautiful. And I got so hooked on her. And I'd actually worked up courage to ask her out. And I saw it as, this is me being dumb back then, I saw it as, me and her will be a power couple. And I didn't know
just
shit
like
about
on the tabloids.
Yeah, like we're going to be a power couple. We'll be the best thing ever. And she told Mr. Schrader, our counselor, she gotten back with her boyfriend. And my heart broke. I was like, fuck. And I was so depressed over that. But my love for her didn't quit. And at that same year, Attack of the Clones had come out. So I had written a Star Wars story about me and her. And I'm not ashamed to admit that shit. Like, that story, that whole saga has all of my personal issues that I've dealt with. And through writing that, I have conquered every single one of them. And I'm still working on them. Every so often, shit'll pop up that I need to work on with that. I wrote her poems. I wrote like 18 or 20 poems for her. And it pissed off one of her exes. Like, he was going to beat my ass at the bar the one night. Like, you wrote 30, 40 poems. I'm like, yeah, what you going to do? And he did go to make a move at the bar the one night to beat my ass. And one of my friends at the time actually stood in his way twice and stopped him from doing it. And
this is like a Jerry Springer saga right
there
here.
You go. Yeah. It all comes around
fucking,
to we gotta
I would have had you read that poetry and then brought the boyfriend out.
Nah, for real. Like, I wrote her so many beautiful pieces. And
then she would have had to pick.
Yeah, but what's sad is that to this day, she doesn't know what she's done for me. Like, because of her,
She will now.
Yeah,
I told her 2 years ago.
Bring her out.
I told her 2 years ago in an Instagram message and post, and she blocked me. And that hurt too.
All right, well, I'll send her this episode and tag her. Just tell me your name. No.
Wow.
Good luck with that. She's a hard ass. Like, she goes by my house every day.
But did you like create something in your mind though that like wasn't real, right? Like we do that when we're young.
I got hooked on her and then the character, and then they were intertwined, and then I got older and I'm like, oh fuck. I fell in love with the character versus her.
And that's what happens with online romance too. Like, I don't think that should go too long. Like, you know, you guys are into what each other look like and then meet in person. And like, I think I've even like carried on some of those situations like way too long, where I like made them something that they weren't. Downhill. And then you meet them once and you're like, what the hell was I thinking?
Yeah, because as I'm older, I'm like, she's not who she really is.
There
and
you
I understand that now. And what kills me is she goes by my house every day because she takes her kids up to practice for sports and stuff. And she just blatantly ignores me. I wave at her, she ignores me. I'm like, all right.
You're like,
fine.
Where's that white shirt and black skirt I was thinking about?
Yeah, but I don't really think about that. Like, because of her talking to me, I was able to have an amazing writing talent come forth. I have been able to talk to women, which is amazing because back then I didn't know how to fucking do it. Now I do. And I'm still learning because there's so many things that I keep learning, and it's amazing to learn all this shit. And she gave me good self-confidence. And for being someone with autism, like, fuck, having self-confidence and being able to talk to somebody, especially if it's in a romantic way or trying to get romance, is challenging in itself because you don't know whether you're going to get rejected or if it's going to go forward or if they're just going to be boring as fuck. Or if they accuse you of wanting sex. I hate that. That pisses me off. And there's one line that I will absolutely I will gatekeep this shit till I die. And I fucking hate it. And it is, I wish I could find someone just like you. I hate it. You know, I hate that shit. Like, you're a good friend. I wish I could find someone just like you. There's no one just like me, bitch. I'm sitting right here. You'll find facsimiles in life, but you will never get the original.
Yes.
And it pisses me off. I hate that line so much because that destroys everything going forward. Any other
I think we're better off as friends. That's tough too.
Oh, I hate that. Like, I get friends.
I don't do friends. I don't do the friend zone thing.
Yeah, no. It's either a yes or a no.
I'm not gonna wait. I don't get 2 hours extra in my day just so I can like go on a happy hour with a friend who I know won't like me. You know, I'm not gonna deal with that.
It's about reciprocating. If you can't reciprocate, fuck off. Plain and simple. If you don't mesh with me, if you don't vibe, it's all about the organic vibe that you get with somebody. If it's organic, it's gonna last. It's gonna work in some way, shape, or form, whether it's to your benefit or theirs.
But I've been on dates where, like, we've chatted online. We've been on. So I started. I'm you know, honest, I'm 39, so I started online dating when you had to use a desktop, and you know, I remember when it came about, you could use the phone, but
a phone. Do tell,
the phone. Yeah, I was on
a rotary phone.
The rotary. I actually do remember my parents had a rotary phone.
Yay!
And I still love the sound of them, but no, I remember going to a day, and I was chatting to a guy on Tinder, and it was really cool. And we were talking a lot about musical theatre. I know, oh my god, homosexuals talking about musical theatre. But we were getting on so well, and then we went on this date, and I don't know, the second we looked at each other, you know, have you ever been on these dates where you're like, the energy just went? And I don't know what it was. And we went, he goes, hi. And I went, hi.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And it was so stupid. Yeah. And we went to his pub, and I bought the first round because it's like you buy in England, you buy like one round and you buy the second round, and then the question is the date going to go on longer?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to buy who are you both going to go to that? Okay, if we go to the third round, is this suggesting it's going to be something more? No, actually, that's it. He bought the first round, and I went to buy the second. And while I was waiting for this to get served, I checked my phone, and my mum had emailed me, and I buzzed my mum back and went, "Hey, mum, why do you know I'm on a date?" And she went, "Your mother knows everything, and if it was a good day, you would not be on your phone checking your emails. You kiss too many frogs." And I was like, "Whoa,
damn!"
And
thanks, Mom.
Yeah, but also I do call my husband my prince because of that line. And I'm like, but it was such a bad day. I mean, and then literally we got to 2 drinks in, and I was like, I was like, oh, I got an early start. And he goes, great. And it turned out we lived down the same road, so we had to walk home together.
Awkward.
And then I had to hide in. I went, I'm gonna go in. Oh, this is my building, and I went in and I hid around a corner. I watched him go because there was like a fried chicken place nearby that I was like, oh, you know, I'm get some fried chicken and a beer.
Nice.
And the next 2 hours were the best 2 hours of that night. But no, like that was like the worst date where you're sitting there and you're kind of going for some reason. And this is big evidence that like online doesn't always work because we were so like compatible online, and we met in real life and we're like, no, this isn't.
Yeah, my worst date was a one-night stand. This bitch. She invited me over because she didn't want to be alone. Because she wasn't. I know.
That's already a red flag.
I know. I'm like,
that's a no. That's a no.
Because I'm nice. I'm a nice guy. I'm extremely nice. And I'm like, all right, I'll stay the night because you're scared and shit. And going back to Sex and the City, we were watching some of that.
Wow.
And I know it's fun. I love that series. I need to rewatch it. It's so good. We were watching that, made out for a while, and started to get hot and heavy. And she, that's so sad. She literally went down on me, up, down, up. I'm tired.
Wow. I didn't know it was pretty graphic here, but okay.
I didn't even, I'm like, what? Okay. I'm like, all right, fine. So we go to bed. I wake up, want to have a little fun, and she's waking and baking with Dawson's Creek.
That sounds like an ideal date for me, actually.
You're determining the date based on the TV program.
Or just like getting stoned watching Dawson's Creek. I'm up for that.
But
maybe this should be like a pre-qualifier question.
I guess so, yeah.
Like,
are you a TV person or not at all?
What are you watching in the morning after?
For real. Like,
the morning after.
I'm in the mood and shit, and she's like, "Yeah, that's nice, but I'm watching Dawson's Creek." And I'm like, and that hurt. That really hurt my fucking feelings. I'm like, and I didn't let her know. I went downstairs and I just stood. I went outside, had a cigarette, and cried because I'm like, wow, she doesn't want me at all. She'd rather watch a fucking show and get high. And that hurt. Yes. And then, yeah, that really killed my self-esteem for a long time. And
I mean, what do you think marriage is going to be like?
Oh, Christ. That's why I'm not for marriage. I'm really not. Like, the only way I'll ever get married is if the only way I'll ever say I do is if she proposes. If any woman proposes to me, I'll say I do. That's the only way I will ever
put your contact information in the show notes.
For real. Like, good luck trying.
I had a 40-year-old virgin on my show, and he got 4 responses, but he was super picky. No wonder he was still a virgin.
Yeah.
Wow.
I actually got him potential people that were like willing to go on a date with him after he told his story. I was like, hell, I would feel good about myself if I made somebody a match through my podcast. So I was like, maybe I should try that.
Oh my God, I'm going to get you on. I've got some mates that I need them with people. No,
hey,
I think
I'm willing to give people a shot. You know, tell your story, talk about what you're looking for. And if there's somebody in my audience that connects to you and likes your laundry list of expectations, by all means.
I need that actually.
Not my husband is not my expectation whatsoever. My life is never what I thought it'd be. But
I love that.
It's always the opposite effect.
No, but I'm just like, even now he's outside, he's singing a lot, he's cooking. I told him he's going to cook dinner tonight, but also because I know that I'm unbelievably lucky with a man like this, because we are just the right people for each other, and it's hard and it's not easy. Like, so
because it takes work.
It takes work. It takes people to realize they're in the same place. Like he's involved in local politics. He had an interesting day, and the first thing I buzzed him was like, "Do you want to go get a happy hour?"
There you go. That's the spirit.
But just saying to him, would you like to go get a happy hour, and do you want to tell me what happened? And he went, I actually really would like that. And then at the end of it, I'm saying to him, I've got to do a podcast. Would you honestly mind cooking dinner tonight? And he's like, yeah, I'm sure. I can hear him singing outside. And he's like, but it is about a lot, and you're going to always feel at times shit and at times really good about yourself.
Yeah.
But me and my husband are very lucky that we met each other, because, you know, we're from two sides, we're from two different countries. And even though that, like, we're both obviously, like, American and England is not the biggest difference. But
at least the time zone ain't that bad.
Yeah, and I'm just so lucky to have him, but I also do know that it is shockingly bad to date people at the moment. And I live in Washington DC. My bestie, Daniel, who could not be here on tonight, my podcast host, is just in a perpetual. He's just not doing well dating, because DC's a very gay city. Like it's a lot of young.
That's wild.
Yeah,
we should totally do a poll on like which ones are more inclusive. Obviously, if it's a more backwards, less progressive state, that's gonna, impact.
But DC's gay to the level of, like, you go to other cities and you forget that men aren't gay. Like it's
that's
everyone
cool.
it's everyone we meet is just like homosexual. But also the issue of that is that he goes on dates, and he's like my best mate, and I think he's just the most awesome guy going, but he cannot meet people.
Does he have high expectations?
A little bit. But also it's just,
that'll explain it.
There's such a level of, well, there's something better going to come along. I don't want to settle for this. If I date this, I'm settling for this. I'm like, just why don't the people just go on like dates and get to know each other?
Yeah, like speed dating.
Well, it's not even speed dating, but do you know what? If you go on a date with someone, you're not signing a contract.
True, it's just one.
Go for 3 days, or 2 or 3. Get to know each other.
Exactly.
Just to say you did it.
But just like, I barely commit to my husband's. You're like, it's not hard. It's just like and I think when tonight I was asked to talk about dating, I felt bad because I was like, I'm 8 years into marriage. But at the same time, as I watch people and go, oh my God, just my advice of dating is chill out.
Yeah, literally.
I love it.
Don't expect shit, because
don't be fake.
Yes,
you hate it when you're lied to, so why? I've noticed this with certain actors I've been around. Like, you can tell if they're gonna goof around if they're still acting.
Yeah.
The minute those cameras just turn off. And it's like, I want to talk to the real you.
was talking about that today with Kate Winslet's interview.
I don't know about that. What's up?
She was in an interview with I forget, I don't know who the girl was, but it was her first time doing an interview with anybody. And Kate told her that, okay, so we're going to do this and we'll just go through it bit by bit and make it the best interview ever. And it turned out to be the best interview ever for her.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was awesome. Dating sucks sometimes.
It does suck.
Because people need to let go of expectations. I used to be so.
It's almost like these interviews we've all organized. This is like, when Oreo came up with this concept, when Reena and Max both agreed to this, I was just like, yeah, the idea is to have an open discussion. It's not to, but we're going to approach it just like any interview, where we're not going to just say, and this is where it's going. If you want it staged, sure, you can say that beforehand before we record, but no, we want raw answers. So it doesn't make sense to say, and now we're structuring it this way.
Yeah, that's true. Because when you segue from one thing to another, it makes it difficult for some people to understand. But when you go into the dating scene itself, like, you can't really have expectations, especially your subconscious ones, and people will swear up and down they don't have them, but they really do. And if you I have had, when I do dating, I used to be very pretentious about the shit. And
you were pretentious? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was very pretentious. I was very particular.
But you're honest.
Yeah, I'm always bluntly honest, and they're like, "You're too fucking offensive." I'm like, "No, I'm telling the truth." And I have no expectations with dating because I know that everybody comes and goes for different reasons. And going back to losing my bestie, I learned that day you can't save them all. And another thing I learned is that sometimes you might be coming across somebody and you might be interrupting their karma that they're going through. And one thing, like, I'll give anybody a chance at dating. I have given numerous people chances at dating me. I've even dealt with a racist bitch at one point who did. Oh yeah, definitely. Call me a fucking scammer nigger. I'm like, yeah, because I wouldn't tell her my real name. I'm like, I go by. He
is mixed, just for the record, guys. But yeah.
Yeah, like, I go by Oreo because I prefer that. I don't like my birth name because I have dealt with so much narcissism with a narcissistic sociopath who gaslights in my mother, and I cannot stand her, and she's literally ruined my birth name for me, so I don't go by that no more. And this chick got so pissed about that. She's like, "Oh, I'm talking to a scammer nigger." I'm like, okay, then bye. And I blocked her. I saved what she said and posted that shit. And one black woman on Twitter commented, she's like, "Yeah, I give everybody a fair chance too, but wow." I was like, yeah, I'm fair about shit. It's all in how you present yourself. If you come off, it's also what energy you put out too. And I've learned that going forward. If you put out bad energy, that's what you're going to get. If you put out good energy, that's what you're going to get.
It kind of goes back to the customer service thing that we were talking about earlier. It's like, if you wouldn't be your best if you have just been called every insult in the book.
Yeah, for real.
It's just not. I don't know anyone who's programmed.
You don't know anything. I still work
here. You really do get your way if you're nicer, though. My battery actually died this week on Mother's Day. And
I'm sorry.
We were a little upset about it because it was under warranty, and it's supposed to be a 4-year warranty. And this has never happened from like AutoZone, or if you order something on Amazon and you tell them it doesn't work, they take it back immediately. But if you order a battery from Walmart, they were running all kinds of tests. I'm like, okay, we bought a new one. My car started. We put this one in. It didn't start. Please just switch them out and give me my $200 back. And we did not ask in the nicest way. My husband was a little irritated and we had other plans, but
No.
We tried the not so nice way of saying, hey, we have the receipt and you don't need to run a test. We already did the test, and then that didn't work. So we went to a different Walmart.
Oh, no.
And tried to be a little nicer and got the $200 back. So sometimes it's a little, trial and error of how you say things. And it's the same thing with podcasting too, right? Yes. Like when you first start telling your story, you're all over the place. And the more you tell it, you solidify and you realize what hits with the audience and what doesn't resonate.
Yeah,
correct.
That's what dating is kind of like too.
Yeah, it's just like YouTube.
Is. Yeah.
You're like, oh, you didn't like that story? I got another one.
Yeah,
but wait, there's more.
Yeah. There's always more. It's you go back to everything. Like if you look at the first person that really changed your life, you go to where you're at now with who you're currently with, and you're like, wow, what a change in perspective. They have a tiny ounce of what that person used to be.
Yeah,
but
you can't escape the full you, but you can.
Yeah.
I actually believe too, like there's different levels of soulmates based upon like how much work you do on yourself.
Oh, definitely.
That is resonating. Holy moly, yeah.
Crystal was my twin flame. And I really crave that bond a lot because that's one thing that it's energy based. And if you have people listening now and they don't know what I'm talking about, or if you have those that are like, oh yeah, I know what he's talking about, like good, you know where I'm going with this. Energy based connections are so rare because it's a wavelength deal. Like you can walk into a room and people will stare at you and then they'll look away. And then there's that one person or a few people that keep staring and they're like, okay. And then there's the times where you're just somewhere and you talk to somebody and you hit it off and keep hitting it off. And it's like iron hitting iron. You keep sharpening the blade and it keeps it ting, ting, ting. And you put it in the water, it fizzes, and you hope you meet them again. And then you meet up again, and it's ting, 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 and the iron's getting sharper, and it's becoming more defined.
I'm like, what drink is that?
Yeah, I was about to say.
No drinks. It's just I'm using a sword making as a metaphor because I love swords. And you get to the point. You get to the point where it's like you meet up and it's just bang, bang, and the sword is so much stronger between you. And going to J. Michael Straczynski with his quote, understanding is a three-edged sword.
For those who don't know.
Yeah. But your truth, their truth, and the truth.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening. It's a jacked up